Good afternoon, students. This is Anshu Sharma from Government College Chaksu. Welcome back. We are going to finish the poem today, Elegy Written in a Country Churchyard by Thomas Gray. And today we are just doing the final part, that is the epitaph of the poem. I had talked about it earlier, and towards the end, when I had finished the poem, rather the main body of the poem, in that I had towards the end, the last 3 or 4 or 5 paragraphs were about the poet talking about himself as he imagined would be after his death, and how one fine day a gentleman would come inquiring about him, and an old shepherd would recall and share whatever he knew about the habits of the poet. So we had ended there, and there was this picture of Thomas Gray's death that he imagines and he describes, and he wonders what the people would, think about or say about him after his death. And the same idea that he had been talking about throughout the poem, that how the simple villagers, even though they were not very great or rich or powerful or any kind of geniuses, yet on their parting they too desired that they would be remembered fondly. There would be some people, including family and friends, who would miss them and talk about them lovingly. And a similar sentiment is expressed towards the end in an imagined concept that similarly, when Gray dies, he would also be, wanting to be talked about in a positive way, in a sympathetic manner, and he imagines this conversation between the shepherd and an unknown gentleman who was something like Gray himself. Now, towards the end, the last 3 paragraphs that we are going to do, that is the epitaph, which I have once again already explained very well, that it is a small poem or a short pithy writing that is engraved, carved upon the tombstone of the grave. Now, on your screens, you can see I have taken a screenshot of a picture which shows a very common sight, a very simple graveyard, and there you can see there are two people discussing, and this is like the picture which conveys the last paragraphs, the idea of the last paragraph, that some gentleman has come and some shepherd is explaining that Gray lies here, and there's you can see that tombstone also there, and on that you can see there is a certain inscription, there are some words engraved on it, and perhaps that is what the epitaph that we are going to read now is, what has been engraved on this tombstone, which is very much visible here. And on the left, you can see the gentleman is standing and wondering what Gray was like when he was alive. And on the right hand side, you can see the old shepherd who is perhaps, telling this man what Gray used to do when he was alive. What was his routine? What was his um, uh, attitude towards nature, and what kind of a disposition he had, what was the nature, how contemplative he was, how serious he was, how he used to enjoy his time in the forest next to the brook, babbling brook, or the magnificent beech tree. Okay, so now here on your screens is the epitaph. Again, the word meanings have been written very clearly. I'll just quickly read it. Here rests his head upon the lap of earth, a youth to fortune and to fame unknown. Fair signs frowned not on his humble birth, and melancholy marked him for her own. Large was his bounty and his soul sincere. Heaven did a recompense as largely send. He gave to misery all he had, a tear. He gained from heaven, it was all he wished, a friend. No farther seek his merits to disclose, or draw his frailties from their dread abode. There they alike in trembling hope repose, the bosom of his Father and his God. So, these are the three passages, the three paragraphs which the poet imagines have been engraved on his tombstone, and this is how he would like to be remembered. This is basically an idea that Gray has about himself, and this is the idea that he wants the people to carry in their hearts as far as Gray is concerned. So these are the words that he wishes to be inscribed on his tombstone. Now, the word meanings are very clear. Let me just go passage wise. The first paragraph very clearly states, here rests his head upon the lap of earth. That is, lap of earth. Earth is always considered to be like a mother, okay, and Mother Earth is a very common term that we make use of. And here it is like the child has gone off to sleep in his mother's lap, and this is reference to his grave, and the shepherd is telling what has been engraved, or maybe it is the gentleman who's reading this epitaph, and very clearly it is stated that at this particular point, at this particular spot of land lies the body of Gray. He has been buried here, a youth to fortune and to fame unknown. Now again you can see the play upon words is there, the first sound is there, fame, fortune, and a youth. This is reference to Gray, supposed reference to Gray, that he was a young man, and neither wealth or fame. Fame is like when you become very popular and when you gain a very famous reputation about your achievements. So that is what it is, being referred to here. And the poet has written this, and that as a young man, he was not fortunate enough. He did not gain any great material wealth. He did not become very rich. He had not much money, and neither was he a very famous or a powerful person. So he was a youth to fortune and to fame unknown. So this is fortune and to fame unknown, that fame and fortune were unknown to him. They had not touched him. Then third line, see, fair signs frown not on his humble birth. Fair signs, that is knowledge. And humble birth means that he was born to an ordinary household. He was born to simple parents. So fair signs frown not on his humble birth. This means that uh, maybe he was not very rich, or maybe he did not have lot of wealth, or maybe he did not get any popularity in his life, but at the same time you can see very clearly it is mentioned that though he was born to simple parents, though he lived a simple and ordinary life, but one thing that he was able to obtain was enough knowledge that made him very happy in life. It was knowledge, not fame, not wealth, not popularity, but knowledge that gave him happiness. And he was somebody who was interested in learning, who was interested in knowledge, and these were the only proud possessions of his life, not money, not fame, not popularity, not power. And lastly, he was a melancholic youth, and he was a very serious, or you can say he was a very sober kind of a person who was not very loud or very happy kind of a person. He was not a happy go lucky kind of a person, not a light hearted person at all, but rather that melancholy had marked him for her own. Marked him for her own. What does this word mean? What does this term mean? Marked means when you say that this particular thing or this particular person is mine. So melancholy again has been kind of personified here, and it's like as if melancholy is his lover, and melancholy has decided that he is mine, Grey is mine. So he is being owed, he is being owned by melancholy. Melancholy means seriousness, soberness, somebody who's very contemplative, very thoughtful, moody. So that is his particular quality. That was what Grey had, that kind of temperament, that he was a serious minded person. And here very poetically it has been described that he was marked by melancholy as her own. So she had marked him that he, that is Thomas Grey, is mine. Then next paragraph you see, large was his bounty. Bounty means charity. Okay. And his soul was sincere. That is, sincere means somebody who's very true, somebody who's very faithful, somebody who's very earnest. So large was his bounty. He was a very charitable person. He was a large hearted person. Though he was not rich, yet whatever he had, he was ready to share with the unfortunate. So large was his bounty and his soul sincere. And he was a very truthful person. He was a very sincere, faithful kind of a person. Heaven did a recompense as largely send. So what did heaven do? Heaven is reference to God or the angels, or the gods of the heaven. They did a recompenses, they returned, or you can say they rewarded as far as possible. They rewarded him. And how did they reward him? Because why did heavens, or why did gods reward him? Because he gave to misery all he had, a tear. Now this is a very poetic, poignant line, because he was not rich and he did not have much money. And if there was somebody who was unhappy, or if there was somebody who was sad, then whatever he could afford, he gave it to that person. And what could he afford? He could only afford a tear of sympathy. Now for a second you might say that how not important it is, but think carefully. When a person is very sad, or when a person is hurt about something, then all he or she needs is a sympathetic ear. You just want to blurt it all out. Just want to unload your heart. You just want to speak out about your pain or about your misery to somebody. And quiet, patient, listening ear makes a lot of difference. Okay, so this sympathetic attitude, this kind heartedness that Grey possessed was enough, for the gods. And what did they do? He gained from heaven, it was all he wished, a friend. So as a return gift, you can say, in return for his sympathetic attitude, in return for his bountiful kind heartedness, what did he get in return? He got a friend. And this friend can be reference to both. It can be reference to God, because God was kind towards him. He had nothing great, and yet he had enough knowledge to keep him occupied. He had that kind of kindness, which gained him a lot of friends, which gained him good wishes of all the people around. And the second meaning can be that he got a good friend in return for his good deeds, and that friend can be reference to Richard West. Okay. So Richard West was the poet's friend who had died in 1742, and as I had told you in the introduction, might be the person who had occasioned the writing of this particular poem. So from God he received maybe God himself, or the friendship of a very earthly, very great friend, very noble friend, that is Richard West. Now, going on to the last paragraph, no further seek his merits to disclose. Now, everything has been carved on the tombstone, and the last paragraph is very telling, because what does he say? What has been written here? No further seek. Further means to look ahead. Further means distance, to look ahead or look more for. So he says here, please do not no more look for his virtues, no further seek his merits to disclose. Merits to disclose, that don't try to look for what good goodness or what positive points he had. What has been told is enough, and do not try to show or open up or talk about his merits or virtues any further, or draw his frailties from their dread abode. Or frailties is his fragile ness or his weaknesses or whatever drawbacks that he may have had. Please do not try to look into them. So this is the concluding stanza, and it is like rounding off, and there is a request that as far as his goodness or as far as his positive points are concerned, or as far as his negative points are concerned, please do not try to look into them any further, because he is no more, and along with him all his virtues or all his faults are now lying silent, and they are there in the dread abode. Dread abode is maybe reference to God himself, and this is being said in awe, that where he is lying or where his merits and faults are lying, from there it is difficult to look for them, and we should not disturb him any further. There they alike in trembling hope repose. Now, they alike means they alike is reference to his faults and his virtues. This is not reference to any people. This is reference to his virtues and his faults, which together are lying in trembling hope. That is, his merits and weaknesses, both of them lie together with God. And we should not try to look into them any further, or try to judge them, or try to kind of pass a kind of judgment over them. We have no right to do that. They are with God, and God will finally decide. And trembling hope repose, now this is again perhaps reference to the judgment day, which I have told you is that when the whole world will come to an end, and finally the dead will arise again, and God will pass the judgment according to what their acts have been on earth when they were alive, and they will be recompensed according to that. If you have done good, the return will be good. If you have done bad, then you shall be punished. So there is trembling hope that when the judgment day comes, then Gray would be judged kindly. He would be judged in a benign manner, and his virtues will perhaps outweigh whatever faults he may have had. The bosom of his father and his God, that is, he lies close to the heart of God, and his frailties are buried with him, just like his virtues, and he lies in peace. And the word dread, as I have written here also, you can see, has been used in the sense of awesome. So he rests in God's protection, and the epitaph marks his grave, which is the final place of his rest. And this is kind of, that he has find a place, a final resting place in the heart of God himself. So these are the final words of the poet. These are the final words of the epitaph, which have been engraved on his tomb. And this is being read by the gentleman who is passing by, and to whom the shepherd has introduced, or you can say has informed him as to where Gray is lying. So this is the end of the poem. This is the final epitaph, and this is a general, you can say, epitaph, an example of an epitaph which is carved on the tombstone. So you have a sample of a supposed epitaph of Gray, which he imagines would be written after his death. So students, this is final. I have ended today with all the explanations, and this was a pretty long poem. I hope you have been going through all the videos, and you have been revising all the word meanings. And also I have shared with you, yesterday I had shared with you the questions also. Though I'm doing the epitaph now, but I've already shared the most important questions. So that is your assignment. Please try and solve those questions. All the notes that I have provided and all the explanations that I have provided should be enough for you to be able to solve all those questions. So please get back to me, and if there are any issues, any problems, any questions, queries that you have, you're most welcome. You can get in touch with me over WhatsApp. You can give me a call anytime. So, wishing you all the best once again. Stay at home, stay safe, and I'll be back with the next poem. Till then, bye bye.